by giving them other things. And so things like putting down food, I do think is beneficial, but by the same token, depending on what your constituency is, sometimes food is the only way you can get people out. Like in our cases where you have families, if you're having a nighttime event, you know, the choice of being with your spouse and kids or being at an SJ event, the spouse and kids are probably going to win out, especially at dinner time. So giving them a free piece of food or something can have value. So the idea is that when we look at anything, especially with numbers, we've got to make sure we do it justly and fairly and objectively.
I agree with that. I mean, we had food for classroom event, but we had a responsible amount of food. It's when there's half your council budget that goes to food is when the problems arise, and I think we agree on that. As far as the top 4 pay goes, actually it wasn't a whole lot of arm twisting because constitutionally you can't lower the top 4 pay within the same year. However, what we did do was we lowered it in subsequent years, as EVP candidate Shane said, we froze it, and it will not be increasing for the first time ever. It will not be increasing this next year, and the top 4 will not be getting a pay increase. In reference to top 4 pay, a lot, for example, my best friend Kara Monaco, the current services vice president, took a pay cut when she took her current position. Because getting the stipend from SGA cut her scholarships, and she lost a lot of money. She's actually, in essence, paying to be a part of SGA. So pay isn't necessarily a problem because, as the EVP candidates both talked about, pay a lot of the times is an incentive. It's a responsibility measure. We had a retreat with the University of Cincinnati, and they were amazed about the fact that we pay our senators. They couldn't believe it. But at the end of the day, they were also amazed at the amount of work that our Senate did. And that's where the true effort comes in. Yeah, I see no problem in giving $150 to a senator if they can produce an amount of work that will amaze another university when they come and visit us. Well, I mean, the basic answer to that would be we're going to have them engage, lead, and serve. Freshman Lead is housed there. That's a program that we are absolutely going to continue because it's one of the most beneficial programs that freshmen get involved in as soon as they get to campus. But obviously we're going to continue with the many great service projects that come out of there. ULDM, SOAR, those kind of projects that are very, very beneficial to the university as a whole. But something I really want to focus on this next year is engage. From the Engage Lead Serve Board, we're going to focus on engaging students, not just at our campus, but at every campus at this university. Because our Engage Lead Serve Board should not just lead, should not just serve, but we should be engaging students. I want the Engage Lead Serve Board to take on the task of raising the voting population at this university. I want the Engage Lead Serve Board to take on the task of raising the amount of applications that we get for freshman lead, for task force freshmen, for staff positions after elections are over. I want the Engage Lead Serve Board to take on the task of getting more students involved in RSOs than ever before. And that's what I want to see out of the Engage Lead Serve Board. They're an incredible asset to this SGA. That's why we brought them in to be our Engage Lead and Serve arm. You're going to see amazing things out of the Engage Lead Serve Board if I'm president, and I can guarantee you that. Thanks, KT.
All right. So, the Engage Lead Serve has always been some funded by the central administration, since now it's a formal part of SGA. So, I mean, to a certain degree, I do agree with Max. I do think that they should engage more on campus. But one thing, too, is that, to a certain degree, I think sometimes students tune out SGA and its initiatives because sometimes SGA tries too hard to engage students. Some students actually just want to be left alone. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true in any population that some students do want to be left alone. So by the same token, these are all great initiatives. These are all great programs under the Engage Lead Serve Board. The first thing I'm going to do is actually just sit down and talk with all the leaders of their organization and say, what do you all do best? What do you all need help with? How can we facilitate you all doing your job well? And then in return, how can you facilitate us? Because absolutely, if we have an entity inside of SGA that's designed to increase participation and not just voting, but anything, then we need to take advantage of that because it also takes a lot of burden off of our dedicated staff members in the Senate and others. Not that all of us shouldn't be trying to promote SGA as much as possible. I'm a firm believer in all the years I've been involved with different leadership activities at UL, whether it be Greek life or student government or what have you, that the best way is to find the best people and maybe have a good second and a third in mind based on their skill set, but also what they can bring to the table, not just about who they know in that capacity. And so one of the things I want to do is, we do all this campaigning to try and get votes. We do all the different student groups and all that. But what I'd like to do is actually, once we get into office, to go and do the exact same thing to reach out to every single RSO and not just send a delegate, but actually send the top 4 there, bring some, bring maybe who's going to be the chief of staff, the first few appointed positions, say, look, we need to have you here. Not because we want to make you SGA drones or anything like that, or plug you into the system, but what we want to do is make sure that we're representing your needs. I mean, SGA is here for you. UL, to a certain degree, is here for you as well. We all work together as a family in the community. It's students, it's staff, it's administrators, the whole line of it. And so, what I want to do is encourage other things. But the other truth is that, to a certain degree, SGA is going to have to break down a perceptual barrier to these people and let them know that, it's not just that you're going to apply and we're going to remove you later, kick you out and put somebody else in your spot. That we want you to apply and we want you to stay and we want to work with you. And not only work with you, but make you better at your position. So that when you go out, you can not just simply list on a resume, well, I did this for SGA. I did this and I made this kind of a difference and this is how I'm a better person. Because there's a lot to learn in SGA, not just about how to do the job, but how to become a better leader in general. And that's what I want to make sure that we're also providing our staff.
Diversity is something that's really, really important to me. I mean, look around the room at the people on my slate, involved with my slate. Cards Unite is the diverse slate in this race. We come from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, and that's what makes us so great. That's why we assembled a team like this, because we're diverse and we're also very, very qualified for the positions we're running for. Just yesterday at the State Student Body Address, Janessa Siegel said that it was one of the commitments of the Association of Black Students to get more black students involved in SGA. And we're answering that call, but we're not stopping there. We're not stopping with black students. My staff is going to have people from every single walk of life, because new ideas and different backgrounds and different modes of thinking and experiences, that is what fosters new and positive ideas for the student body. We're here to work for the students, not one set of students. I'm not going to have an all-Greek system. I'm not going to have an all-white system, an all-black system, or a system of just 2 or 3 groups. I'm going to have a system that represents every single group on this campus. Man, woman, black, white, straight, gay, I don't care. You're going to be on my staff and your voice is going to be heard, and it's going to be heard loud.
So just kind of addressing back to that, it's interesting that they mentioned that you probably that black students want more involvement in SGA, because back in the day, it used to be that we would have 3 slates run, or 3.5 slates, or 4 slates run. Even one year there was a slate composed of all international and cultural students on there. And so, to a certain degree, over the past, between 2005 and 2008, SGA has seen a lot of, decline in its participation. So, not only just reaching out, but there clearly is, like I said before, some type of perceptual issue involved that we need to address. I mean, and part of me not, stepping up to be a part of SGA until later in my career is directly as a result of that. I mean, I hear the same type of stuff. Oh, it's political. Oh, it's, back scratching and that sort of thing. And so, I think Max and I both are in agreement here that the key is to reach out and to make sure that we have a diverse population. But also, not just to have it for 1 year, we need to instill a sense of permanence so that when we do these things, we have this involvement in, say, 1 year, that we also have the same involvement the next year and the year after that and that sort of thing. So that's my plan. So I don't take credit for other people's work. I mean, in the academic world, that's considered plagiarism. In the professional world, it's just simply not professional. Ever since I've been, whether it be Triangle president, IFC president, or GC president, when somebody does something for me, I make sure to reach out to them. I make sure to mention their name in front of the meeting, in front of other people, because that's part of making sure that they're going to come back again and that they're going to participate and they're going to do great things for the university. So I plan to do the exact same thing, because ultimately I'm not in this for me, I'm in it for everybody else. And I want to make sure that everybody else that steps forward gets the recognition they deserve. Even just recently, one of the things I was working on in the Senate was trying to make sure that our non-traditional students can have the ability to get the season tickets if they want to. And that idea came from Miss Julia Nimbo with the staff. So the very first thing I did that night was to write her and say, we got it through and we were able to get this thanks to her advice and her help. And so it's little things like that, making that known to the public that there are people. I think that's part of why SGA has a perception too, that it's just a closed-knit system of people. It's because we're not sharing. We're just taking, it all filters down to the top figure, essentially, or the top figures. And so that's why it's important. anytime you're building a pyramid, you've got to have a strong base. And that strong base are your participants. Those are the everyday people out there in the field making the connections, hearing the problems, and making sure they get relayed to the right place. And that's what I'm going to try and make sure that I do, and that starts with promoting the people that are working for you in a positive manner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of credit where credit is due. When one of my staff members completes a task, then they're the one that's going to be in CardCast talking about it. They're the one that I'm going to tell administrators that accomplished this task, and I'll bring them to the meeting with me and introduce them to those administrators so they get the credit for the work that they did. Curtis, I love you to death, but one of your weaknesses is delegating and the credit where credit is due. When my diversity associate makes those important connections with the intersection, with ABS, then they're going to get that credit. They're going to be the one talking about it. They're going to be the one that's lauded in every meeting concerning that. This is not going to be the Max Morley administration. This is going to be known as the administration that turned things around. This is going to be not the Max Morley administration. This is going to be known as the administration that fought to protect student tuition. And this isn't going to be the Max Morley administration. This is going to be known as the most diverse and the most productive administration in the history of our university's SGA. Well, I don't know how many of y'all watched the Super Bowl, but Clint Eastwood told all of us that America is at halftime. It's halftime here in America, and it's halftime here at the University of Louisville. In my first day in office, my #1 priority is going to be college affordability, just like it has been this last year. Because tuition's going up next year, and there's nothing we can do about it right now, but there is work we can do in the future. I've got 2 bills. After this one goes through, I've got 2 more that are ready to be written, that are ready to be proposed, that are ready to be introduced to the Kentucky General Assembly, that are going to protect Keys money for Kentucky students, and are going to keep prices low, not just on tuition, but on mandatory fees, on mandatory meal plans, and for the incoming freshmen, mandatory housing costs. Because you don't think about it, but the CPE only sets those caps on tuition and mandatory fees. So the university is able to jack up the prices on mandatory meal plans and mandatory housing to cover some of their costs, and that's wrong. So those are the kind of things I'm going to tackle first day in office. My team has the ability to do this. We as a university have the potential for greatness. It's right within our reach, and my team and I are going to lead us in the right direction. And just like Louisville, we're the leaders of the rally for higher education in Frankfurt, Louisville is going to be the leader in the nation. Not the state and not the region, but the nation, on protecting students, on putting students first, and on making sure that the students in their state can get a quality, affordable education here at one of the best universities.
So one of the things I'm going to do first thing I get in office is, although I do represent all students, of course, but I'm going to do one thing and advocate for one student group that is consistently left out by the student government, and that would be some of your graduate professional students in particular. And that's not to say just their needs, but it's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. I want to actually address legislation in Frankfurt that deals specifically with graduate professional students. Oftentimes in Frankfurt, we're completely left out of the picture. I'm not just talking about like Max, but in general, graduate students are left out of the picture when it comes to big things. But more importantly, when you look around and you go to classes at U of L, you probably have seen at least one TA teaching one of your courses. What's not really understood a lot of times is that those people, when they go home, they work 60 to 100-hour weeks just trying to do what their advisors tell them to do. That could be in a lab, that could be teaching classes. In fact, there are some TAs that teach more classes. There's a lot of TAs that teach more classes than their actual advising professors do as they're trying to get work. And the problem with that is that unlike when you're an undergraduate student, for example, you can go out and work. You can go out and hold a job and you can make money. When you're a TA and you're a grad student, you can't do that. You're limited by federal law to only work 20 hours a week, although it's kind of a laughable number, but you're not allowed to take in a certain amount of money beyond a certain point, because if you do, the taxes don't apply. For a lot of our students, especially the international ones that come overseas, if they upset their advisor, they get sent across the way. Some of them even have to try and support a spouse and children on a meager TA salary, which is usually compared to the poverty level in Louisville in general. So these are things that I at least want to bring to the forefront, because in many ways, U of L administrators over the years do not want to touch those issues with a 10-foot pole. I've been told by several administrators that very fact. And I want to advocate for those people. But by the same token, it's because that we're all here together, and those students serve as the backbone to our education system. They get a lot of things done for our teachers, and a lot of times they're the ones who are left out. They don't have the rights, the same rights that staff have. They can't take family medical leave in case they have a sick one get ill. They have to try and arrange it. I mean, I know these things sometimes sound awful, but a lot of times I think when we're an undergrad student, you know, when I was an undergrad student, I had no idea until I became a TA, until I had to work in the lab really long hours. And that is the type of experience that I have that I want to bring to the table.